So the fact that Netflix was as good as they were, you got to think of like Stranger Things, House of Cards, Black Mirror,
Ozark.
but also look at Squid Game. I mean, they came out with dramas that were like stuff that people talked about.
Yeah.
And obviously like dramas come out every day on Apple or Hulu or whatever, but it's like, and they're great. But when the world was talking about Squid Game in a way that you're like, this is how people used to talk about like JR getting shot on Dallas.
Right, yeah.
It's unbelievable. So the fact, it's not that I think that they suffered, because I think that they'll come back up again, but it was a little just that they had so many hits back to back to back to back. And then it's like, not that you run out of hits, but there's an ebb and flow to all of this stuff. So the fact that they were just on top as much as they were with new stuff, because you think about Disney doing as well as they are, it's all IP that exists.
Yeah.
It's like, of course they're doing well. They're just building off of canon that you already support and put your dollars into. So the fact that Netflix was as competitive with new stuff that didn't have IP, you were like, you're going to come down to earth at some point.
Yeah, because the projections for the next quarter, they said they're going to lose $2.5 million.
Yeah.
On the next one.
Yeah.
And man, the stock is cratered at this point.
Now's the
my
time to
thing
buy.
is this is like, 'cause, you know, I was thinking about this the other day where Ozark is coming to an end.
Yeah.
I just saw the trailer for
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kids are older, and the series looks different to me in that trailer. So I'm not sure how big that will be anymore.
Well, that's the thing that I think the impressiveness when you think about like NBC in the 90s, when you think it's so easy in retrospect to just like blow off a period of time because it's like, yeah, but that was then, this is now. But it's like they had hits and must-see TV for a fucking decade.
Yeah.
And it's like at some point, you know, they lost that. Not that they, listen, I love 30 Rock, I loved Community, all these other shows that came after that. But to be great and then have the numbers at the same time, it's an anomaly. And I think we don't give enough credit to that. So like Netflix for coming out first, obviously being like the first streaming platform really, and to being as strong with everything, Paramount, everybody has their own streaming kind of thing, and Netflix to be able to maintain the championship belt.
Yeah.
It's like at some point, you know, it's just the laws of it's going to falter. And then something else will replace it, and then they'll sort of redo their business model and things like that. I mean, I think the thing that I think that they do really well, but I think Hulu probably does maybe better comedies than they do. It's like that, or they're able to produce more that have a bigger following. And I think that sometimes, you know, that may just be what's trending right now, is that people are looking for comedies.
Well, the other part about Hulu is they have the licensing rights for all of like Disney shit. So like
and Fox.
Oh, I'm sorry, Fox. Yeah,
Yeah.
Fox and
but
FX.
it's both.
Yeah,
It's both.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about the Netflix which I think of them as still like GOAT, you know, territory. It's like they don't have the other stuff that those guys do.
No,
they are their
they've got
own.
30 Rock and
The Office.
The Office.
No, but I'm saying that they're not getting
that's
them
it.
live.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
you're
no,
not getting
no,
them
Yeah,
live,
it's like the fact that you're getting like Family Guy and all these things on, which I love Family Guy and American Dad and stuff. It's like you're getting TBS, you're getting all these other places to help as tributaries into your river. And Netflix is just like this. It's a self-sustained entity that's able to come up with that's unbelievable. Whereas
is.
by the way, Universal, the Peacock, they have Universal. Paramount's got the entire catalog of that stuff. You know, there's all these things that are sort of helping it out. Whereas like Netflix, man, they're a fucking island and it's like a continent.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with it. I saw the numbers for HBO that came out the following day, and they added 2 million.
Yeah, but HBO went through the same thing. The 3 weeks after the last episode of Game of Thrones, they lost 1/3 of their subscribers.
Yeah.
Like within 3 weeks of that, because they didn't have anything to follow up. I mean, look, maybe it is a trend that you go up and down, and sometimes comedies are more popular, sometimes it's dramas. Like You is going to be popular no matter.
Absolutely.
What.
Yeah.
But there are some things that they ebb and flow, but as a company, you got to kind of be ready for that.
100%. I think, you know, they put a lot of money in Cowboy Bebop, because I will tell you, for us, so when I was on Dad Stop Embarrassing Me with Jamie, and we had an incredible experience, you know, and there's a lot of reasons why, you know, we're not coming back for a second season. You know, part of it is I think that Jamie is like the busiest fucking dude in the planet,
sure.
you know? It's like, that guy's amazing. So, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. It's like time, and that's the other thing. Can you get something where everybody's schedules link up, that you want to get the name talent? Because Cowboy Bebop, they had the IP from the cartoon, which I fucking loved, and it didn't. And we did, by the way, we did very well. We were #1 in the world for 4 days straight.
Yeah.
So there's not a second season because of numbers. That was not our issue, you know?
Sure.
Whereas like Cowboy Bebop, it was so expensive, but us and Cowboy Bebop made every list that I had saw of top 10 shows that are most anticipated for 2021, I think was it. And yet both shows are not coming back for a second season.
Well, what was the story with Cowboy Bebop? Because it seemed like a lot of people didn't like it. Whereas
thought-
your show, there wasn't really any bad reviews or anything. But Cowboy Bebop but the cast loved it, and they wanted it to come back for another season.
I just think it didn't feel like when you do anime, which is so protected, that like I just think it didn't feel like there's a weird pacing in anime because obviously a lot of it starts off in Asian language and then it's translated.
Oh, yeah.
So there is a pacing that's inherently built into it, and I'm a diehard fan of it and have been my whole life. So when you see it live action, like Ghost in the Shell, they did it with Scarlett Johansson.
Yep.
You're like the visuals are great and like she's awesome and Michael Pitt's good, but it's like it's not really the thing that made Ghost. Like, they're trying to do Akira, that Leo owns the rights to that. And in a weird way, I mean, I hope they do, but I hope they don't.
Yeah.
That's one of the number one animes of all time. Like they would have to put so much money into
exactly,
Akira.
dude.
That's renowned as like the
it's
anime
perfect.
of anime.
You can't fuck that up. You can't fuck it up.
But also, there's no reason to improve it. There's no way to improve it. It's like with Cowboy Bebop, in a weird way, that cartoon is so fucking entertaining, and even the way that like Spike Spiegel, when he moves in it. He has these like very particular sort of like stances and stuff. It's so iconic, and it has existed, I think, in people's minds that it's like when you see a human do that, unless you're really, and don't get me wrong, John was amazing. I thought everybody was really good as their character, but it didn't feel like the anime.
John Cho, who you're talking about.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the costume, the detail, like everything was so cool. And I was like, oh, that's cool, Easter egg there, whatever. But I do think when you do a cartoon and you try to live action it, it's like the pacing and dude. It's like,
I don't think they should.
Camera. You can't do Dutch angles. You can't do crazy zooming cameras because it doesn't work the way it works in anime with this like flying, like emotionary camera that hits some of the beats. You can't do that.
They tried it with the
action.
Incredible Hulk. Do you remember that with what I can't remember who it was. It was not Bana or it was one of the early ones.
Ed Norton?
They
Ed
tried
Norton.
to make it like a comic book, and I was like, this ain't working.
No, I don't
Ed
think
Norton, yeah.
Eyes, yep.
I don't think
Yeah.
they should have filmed Cowboy Bebop like that at all. Like a live action version of it could do very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a limitless world.
But forget about all of the special effects stuff. You know what I mean? Maybe some like sounds like sword like
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
but not like the 1950s Batman bullshit. You know what I mean?
Where it's like Bamf and I
Yeah,
mean, it's tough though because it's styled. I think some of the reason that things like that become successful is because the style really is attractive to people.
Yeah,
And then
sure, yeah.
But if you pick the wrong style, that's when you end up in a train wreck where it's just like, all right, that was the wrong.
The way I'm seeing it in my head is kind of the way that Tarantino did Four Rooms, where it has that feel to it, but it's not like streaks on the screen. I don't know how to explain that.
I think that I think that Cowboy Bebop or anime is the closest I've seen to comic books come to life.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you make another step removed, because essentially it's like they're graphic novels that now have been animated.
But what about Sin City though? Like, how does that stack up?
I mean, I thought that movie
the
was
first one was really good.
incredible.
I thought it was
Mickey
incredible.
Rourke,
Yeah.
dude. But here's the thing: the amount of coloring that went over it.
Oh
you
my
know,
God, dude.
it's like it. But
it's like 3 years of work.
yeah, it
Fuck
took
that
forever.
shit. I'm
It
not
took
doing
forever.
But also, they weren't trying to make it as much live action as they were an animated thing. It just,
Right.
which I thought that was as good of his example. And Mickey Rourke won the Chicago Circle, or whatever.
He was so good in that.
Dude.
That was kind of his comeback movie.
It was, yeah.
And then there's A Scanner Darkly, which they rotoscoped, right, with Keanu Reeves. That's a
Richard
fucking-
Linklater did that.
Yeah,
Linklater.
yeah.
Of course he did, right?
Yeah,
So-
he did. Speaking of coloring, dude, I'm watching Winning Time right now. Are you watching that as well?
I've seen part of it. I'm probably, is it all out?
No.
the
They're in
same.
like 8 episodes. Same with Delco. He's waiting for the whole season.
I
to
can't
come.
because I'll go all the way to the end in one night and get pissed off.
It's really the same, and it's really fucking good. I watch it week to week with my wife, but the coloring in it is colored like it's 1979, 1980, and that plays a huge part in it where you're in
Absolutely.
it and you're just like, oh shit, this is dope because it feels like that era.
Right. That's the thing. Like, you got to think of color palette when you look at people like Dune, like people who really pay attention to that. it affects us way more than we realize, and I think because it's weird with a cartoon when you see something, it's a flat, because obviously it's flat
2D,
images, and then it's like trying to make those real but not having the colors pop. There's something that doesn't feel right in your mind because your mind has already memorized it as something else, and then you go like, well, do something else then.
Well, maybe that's why Sin City worked so well, because they did flatten the palette.
100%, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was black and white, except for like Yellow Bastard.
Yeah.
And then to see that, it was just like, man, and that story is just so fucking compelling. Sin City.
The second one was dumb.
I didn't like the second one.
The first one is
I
amazing.
like the first one a lot.
I saw the second one. I don't even remember. I saw it, but I don't remember it.
The first one it's like written. It's not just it shows you how good the graphic novel was before, because it was pretty good canon wise, and there's an A, B, and C plot in a graphic novel. Really, like you spent that much time paying attention to the character development in a graphic novel.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's weird to me. Yeah. I wouldn't have expected that. I would expect like maybe an intersecting plot line at some point, but not like a clearly drawn A, B, and C where it's you're jumping from one to the other, but it always makes sense the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where there's still some mystery until the end of the film.
There's such
really
a
good.
depth to it.